There's the aspect about many Kenyans never thinking post-2010, when we promulgated the Constitution on the 27th of August 2010, that some elements of life will be policed by the Kenya police or the government largely. But now it's more or less what appears to be a shrinking freedom of space in terms of our democracy, in terms of the freedom of expression movement because of the imposed measures by the government. And life is on hold generally. But how does the government then differentiate between the qualitative difference between suppressing, modifying a behavior for guidelines to be followed and ensuring that they reduce the risk of the COVID-19 pandemic on the same population?
Ayub, if our government or the enforcers of these regulations were to understand our constitution, will not be having these problems. Kenyans ought to understand that some of these rights are not absolute. Some of these rights are qualified, like the freedom of movement. It is qualified. Freedom of association, freedom of speech. What you say, what you do can be controlled by government in favor of the public. However, the government also ought to enforce these regulations, putting in mind the provisions of Article 25, which makes it impossible to limit some rights.
Okay.
Protection from torture, inhuman treatment, and slavery, for example, cannot be limited under whatever circumstances, not even at the worst phase of coronavirus can you subject human beings to cruel and inhuman treatment. What we've been witnessing in some parts of this country is actually torture. Kenyans have been subjected to torture. Kenyans have been subjected to inhuman treatment. This tells you that the government either does not understand that some rights cannot be limited, or it understands and it has chosen to ignore. Effectively, the work of a police service is to maintain law and order. And maintaining law and order does not mean meeting unnecessary force on the citizens. Maintaining law and order must be in the right frame of our legal provisions.
Okay.
And why I told you, Ayub, that the country was not prepared for this curfew, for example. We are now fighting as a continent and as a nation against congestion.
Okay.
We are trying to decongest people. You arrest about 70 people overnight, dump them into one police cell. What are you going to achieve? Don't you think that the virus is going to spread?
When there's already a plan by the judiciary to decongest our prisons.
Yes, and decongest our prisons, but then the police cells are being congested. How are we achieving?
Okay.